Ada surat bilang, ada.
Good evening and welcome to the Council of Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat Colombo Forum of 2022, conducted by the CTBUH Sri Lankan chapter. Council on Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat is the apex body for tall building professionals across the globe. CTBUH Colombo Forum is the signature annual event of CTBUH Sri Lanka. Today, together with many giants in the industry, we plan to bring forth a meaningful conference. In order to start the session, I now invite the following to light the virtual oil lamp. The chief guest of the evening, architect Jayanta Pereira. And the CTBUH committee, architect Nirodha Gunadasa, Mr. Ruan De Silva, and Mr. Bishar Hadi. Please rise for the national anthem. Thank you. I now invite the Vice President of the CTBUH Sri Lankan chapter, Architect Nirodha Gunadasa, to welcome the gathering.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Right. So we are meeting up today under an immense pressure and unprecedented threat of survival to the construction industry. We never thought that a pandemic will become such a great disaster for all of us. And we never thought an economic crisis would burst in and it will be a bigger disaster than the pandemic. But is that all that could happen to all of us? Perhaps this may not be the end of all our miseries. Perhaps even bigger ones may be waiting behind. Okay, according to the way the global politics are working today, there can be a World War III waiting to outburst. And if it happens, behind the World War III, there will be an energy crisis coming. So behind the energy crisis, there comes the global climate change. And if it happens, behind that comes the global biodiversity collapse. So this is the worst that can happen to us. It might not happen, but if it happens, in all these disasters, as people of construction industry, we all have to survive. And we have something to do more than just making up our own survival. We are the creators of human habitat and cities. So in each of these disasters, as the creators of human habitat and cities, we have a much bigger role to play. And that is where the need comes for all of us to come under a global council. The CTBUH, the Council on Tall Building and Urban Habitat, is the world's leading non-profit organization, not only for architects, not only for city planners, not only for engineers. It's a platform for all those who are interested in the future of cities. And CTBUH explores increased urban density and vertical growth that can support more sustainable and healthier cities, especially in the face of mass urbanization and the increasing effects of climate change the worldwide. So CTBUH serves as a platform for both cutting-edge information share and business networking for all companies and professionals focused in the inception and design and construction and operation of cities and the buildings. So CTBUH is the world's largest database on construction industry. And like we had in the morning, CTBUH always organizes networking sessions, then group activities and so forth for everybody to get together. So the council brings together the top professionals of the world who engage in shaping up the future of our cities. So we warmly welcome all of you to the CTBUH Colombo Forum, the signature event of CTBUH Sri Lanka, for this timely discussion on managing project risk in a critical economic environment and the global trends towards the net zero tall buildings. So with a sound of applause, we'll welcome our chief guest, architect Jayantha Perera. He's the president of Chamber of Construction Industry, and he has been a past president of Sri Lanka Institute of Architects. And we also welcome our beloved guest of honor, Professor Ranjit Disanayaka, the senior professor of University of Peradeniya, and he is the chairman of the Green Building Council of Sri Lanka. So your presence in this event is a great honor to us. And we also welcome our keynote speaker, Dr. Paulo Vezera, from the Faculty of Architecture and Building and Planning from University of Melbourne. And also, our beloved keynote speaker, second keynote speaker, Professor Priyan Mendis, Professor of Infrastructure Engineering, University of Melbourne. So all the invitees, CTBUH members, and all the professionals gathered here today, on behalf of the council, I warmly welcome you. So tonight, our eminent international experts will enlighten us on the timely issues we are facing today. So we hope all of you will make the best use of this event. And more than that, we also hope that you all will join us. You will become members of CTBUH, become active members of CTBUH, and help us advance our mission towards a greater sustainable vertical urbanism. That is our expectation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nirodha. The chief guest for the CTBUH 2022 Colombo Forum, architect Jayantha Perera, completed his undergraduate and postgraduate education in architecture at the University of Moratuwa, Sri Lanka. On completion of his academic career, he was elected as a corporate member of the Sri Lanka Institute of Architects and the Royal Institute of British Architects. His professional career has been mainly in the private sector in Sri Lanka, with short stints of work overseas in Nigeria and Oman. He has been an academic for over 2 decades of his practice has been with one of the major architectural practices in Sri Lanka, Design Consortium Limited, during which period he was responsible for winning the SLIA Design Award for the Deer Park Resort, Giritale, Sri Lanka, which subsequently received the prestigious Green Globe Award. Jayantha is a mediator and arbitrator and is a founder council member of the Institute of Dispute Management Professionals. Jayanta is a founder director of the Sri Lanka Green Building Council. Jayanta also serves as the president-elect of the Chamber of Construction Industry, Sri Lanka. Architect Jayanta Pereira was elected president of the Sri Lanka Institute of Architects for the sessions 2007 to 2009 and held the position Chairman Architects Registration Board, Sri Lanka 2009 to 2011. He was the chairman of the Committee on Architectural Education of the Architects Regional Council Asia and was the deputy chairman of Zone A during 2009 to 2010. He is a past chairman of South Asian Associate of Architects. He also served as the director for the Union of International Architects work program, Responsible Architecture. Architect Pereira is the current chairman practice of the CAA, also serves as a member of the CAA Validation ExCom. Architect Pereira was awarded the Award of Eminence in 2014 by the Institute of Construction Training and Development for his lifetime contribution to the construction industry and profession of architecture. The award was presented by His Excellency the President of Sri Lanka. Past faculty board member of the Faculty of Architecture of the University of Moratuwa, Sri Lanka, and a member of the board directors of the City School of Architecture, Colombo. I now invite Architect Jayanta Pereira to address the gathering.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me thank the Council of Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat Sri Lanka, and especially its country representative, my friend, Engineer Shiromal Fernando, for inviting me to the CTBUH Colombo Forum 2022. And especially its country representative, Mr. Shiromal Fernando. Yes, sorry. I consider it a great honor and privilege to address this august gathering of engineers and allied professionals. Today, you all have selected 3 topics to be discussed. Out of the 3 topics to be addressed today, managing project risk and critical economic environment, global trends towards net zero buildings, and launching the Tall Building Guideline of Sri Lanka. Being the president of the Chamber of Commerce Industry Sri Lanka, I would like to talk to you very briefly on the topic managing project risk and critical economic environment. Next slide, please. Construction industry and crisis. Managing project risk in critical economic environment. Projects, right? In Sri Lanka, you know that most of the projects are on hold. And there are no timeline or where they will start the projects. Then there was this thing that future projects are not coming up. And recently at a meeting with the president, was told that don't think about anything coming up in 2023. So one whole year has to pass before we think of new work as well. Then there's a huge crisis of non-payment non-payment due to clients' cash flow issues. You see, there are, because of the economic crisis in the country, there is a huge problem for the industry professionals that they can't get paid because their clients are not getting paid or the government is not paying the contractors. And so there's a huge crisis coming up, or it's already there. Then to add to this, right, when in a normal situation, when a contractor or a consultant or a supplier is short of money or cash, he goes to the bank and borrows to overcome that situation. But today you can't borrow because the interest rates are so high. At no way that any business or any enterprise can pay back. Then skilled labor and professional migration. That's another huge issue that we are having. All the skilled labor and the professionals whom we have trained in this country are now migrating. You can't blame them because they have to earn their living. They look after their families, so they are migrating out of this country. I was told that during the month between August 15th to October 15th, 10,900 professionals have migrated. That's only 2 months. So you can imagine. I mean, professional migration has been there, but now it's becoming very, very serious in this country. The risks, high inflation and demand for high wages, because cost of living has gone up and people can't survive with their salaries or income that they have been having, and now they're demanding. So inflation is high, so they're demanding high salaries, but industry or the business people cannot afford to pay because they also don't get paid back. Then opportunity follow. Issues, and we must try and go forward in this. So we should handle, or we should think of out of the box how we can evolve certain things to get out of this situation as professionals. We must also think this as an opportunity to see whether we can, how we can get out of the situation as industry professionals. One way is opportunity for local contractors and consultants, or to involve in international projects, right? So for this, we have proposed certain suggestions to the government, and at the end of the speech, I will tell you what where we are at that. Into local consultants to do offshore consulting work. I'm sure, I know, to my knowledge, there are a lot of architects, engineers working on overseas project from here because the online facility is now provided. I know the IT industry is working in a huge way on that basis, but I know that the engineering profession, the architect profession, and the QS profession is also now involved in that. So that's a big opportunity to grasp, because that can last long, and also from one country to another country you can shift, and that's a opportunity. You have to take it as an opportunity to develop our technology and knowledge to work on overseas projects. Maybe you can go overseas as a group, not as individuals, or work from here. Then opportunity to create waste to material technology. Now, this is another area that we should be looking at, especially being a green professional as well. I think we have not been looking at using local and waste material to build material that you can use for new constructions or new developments. Then opportunity to use alternate local material for construction, you see. So I know there was a time when, I think Dr. Kulasinger's time, we were developing certain types of the laterite block, right? Which we use clay with a percentage of cement, which gave a fairly high strength. And I don't know whether that lateral block is still functioning. So these are things that we have developed, but we have forgotten to continue for easiness. And I think that's another area that we should look at, go back and look at. I know a project that was done long years ago by one of the leading architects at that time, Mr. Valentine Gunasekaran. He built a hotel down south, and some of the slabs, of course, not high, long span slabs, were reinforced with bamboo, right? And I don't know that that technology was developed. It was just dead. If that was developed today, we would have been scoring a very high with the steel prices and all that. You see, and bamboo is a material that you grow and you cut and you grow and you cut. It's a sustainable material. So we have to look at that type of thing. Then opportunity to create a sustainable construction industry. Of course, that is where we are looking at. There are so many high technology development happening in the world, how the industry can be more sustainable in the coming years. Opportunities for young professionals. Yes, we must take, the young professional must take this as an opportunity to grasp new technology, to work in the global market. In fact, when I was president of the SLI, one of my missions was a statement. I said, we should not be training local architects. We should be training global architects. Unfortunately, that was not carried forward sufficiently. That if we had that global architects today, none of these architects would have had problems here, because they would have been global and they could travel anywhere and work anywhere. See, there are certain ingredients, 5 ingredients I mentioned, to how we make global architects. So those are things that, these are opportunities that the way that we should take forward and navigate this crisis to the best of, because all of us are experienced professionals in the industry and we know how to handle things, from how to get out of a crisis. So let's all work together of this. And now with recently, further to the above, CCI made a presentation to the government by submitting a detailed report of the status of the construction industry in Sri Lanka. And I'm glad to announce that after continuous lobbying by the CCI, this week we received a letter addressed by the Department of Fiscal Policy of the Ministry of Finance to the following: Secretary, Ministry of Urban Development Housing, Secretary, Ministry of Industries, Director General, Department of National Budget, Director General, Department of Public Enterprise, and Director General, Department of Public Finance, asking them to look at the 7 points that the CCI have put up, how they can, their observations and how they can support these 7. One is to appoint a task force to study and recommend the measures to mitigate the current issues faced by the domestic construction industry and to promote investment locally and export the construction services. Number 2, implement the proposal of the Presidential Commission on simplification of existing laws and regulations to ensure building permits within 21 days. You see, an investor coming to this country has to wait 2 years to get the building permit. And he's not going to wait here for 2 years. He's going to go back because his investment feasibility is halfway down the line when the approvals come. So this is another serious issue that we have worked on. So I think now it's implemented. I saw recently the one-stop shop where they are going to give the approval in 21 days. So priority consideration of investment project submitted by the Chamber of Construction Industry with the intervention of Honorable President. Then issuance of US dollar bonds and guarantees by a bank in collaboration with either ADB or World Bank to proven construction companies contractors and consultants with the recommendation of the Chamber of Construction to undertake overseas projects. Now, there are contractors and consultants who are working abroad or who are already working abroad, but they have serious crisis, serious issue of getting bonds and guarantees. Because once we are declared a bankrupt country, bankrupt economy, no foreign government or no foreign investor internationally is going to accept warranties from local banks unless they are backed up by, earlier it was backed up by central bank. After our rating went down, that is also not accepted. So now we are working, or we are telling the government, please work with the ADB or the World Bank and support, counter guarantee our bank bonds so that they can go abroad. So these are very vital things. The total outstanding, there's another, I won't go into details of this. Most of you all know that our construction contractors have done work for the government and has not been paid 209 billion rupees, right? So the Treasury, the recent meeting said, yes, we can pay up to 40 billion, but that is also 10 billion in cash and 30 billion in bonds. So I asked one of the Treasury bank people, these bonds, can they be encashed? Sorry, they are long-term bonds. They can only give us another guarantee for something. If you want to encash, you get only 65%. So there's a serious, and what about the balance of the 209 billion? Only 40 billion we are talking about. Nobody knows how we're going to pay that. And how is going to, the industry is going to come up with this? So this is another issue. So, so at least we are told to pay 1/3 of the total overdue amount to settle by end of the year, another 1/3 by March 2023, and the balance before end of 2023, which is not going to come. So the settlement of construction companies should include interest on delayed payments calculated at the prevailing bank overdraft and things like that. So these are some issues that we have now addressed, and the Ministry of Finance have now put all the ministries that I told you to give their observations and what they think, what they can do. So at least we have got one step forward. To get this letter out from the ministry took us more than 3 months. So anyway, so those are the issues. Because of the crisis, I was supposed to talk about the crisis, so I'm talking about don't get depressed. We need to come out of this. So ladies and gentlemen, we sincerely hope that there will be a positive response from the said ministries so that we as the construction industry can formulate a long-term policy for the sustenance of our industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jayanta Pereira. The first session on the agenda is the discussion on managing project risk in a critical economic environment by Dr. Paulo. Paulo Vazera is a senior lecturer in construction management within the Faculty of Architecture, Building and Planning. He is a civil engineer with over 20 years of experience in commercial, industrial, institutional, and domestic construction as a senior construction manager and a senior project manager. He has also held exclusive operative and R&D responsibilities in one of the largest construction companies in Portugal and has been involved with international humanitarian projects. Paulo has a master's degree in construction and a PhD in civil engineering that focused on knowledge management within construction companies. While he maintains an interest in issues involving construction procurement, the mainstay of his research concerns the factors affecting communication and knowledge transfer processes in the AEC sector. As an expert in knowledge management in construction, Paulo was the project coordinator for a major industrial research and development effort on the implementation of knowledge management systems in Portuguese construction companies. This involved multiple contractors, 2 universities, the Portugal government, and the European community. The project was selected for awards and public preservations across Europe. His work to date has resulted in the publication of a number of industry reports and papers in conferences and Portuguese magazines. Between 2006 and 2008, Paulo taught various subjects at Fundec, a training body for construction professionals. He has also been an invited lecturer at the Portuguese Institute of Science and Technology of Leiria, where he lectured on construction planning and safety as well as environmental systems in civil engineering. Paulo is a senior member of the Portuguese Engineers Organization and a chartered member of the Institution of Civil Engineers. He has acted as professional supervisor for several young engineers and supervised master's theses in the area of construction management. I now invite Dr. Paulo to conduct the session.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a great pleasure for me to be here this afternoon with you. Thank you for the Professor Priyan, Mr. Shiamal for the invitation to be here today and for the direction of the CTBUH Sri Lanka here tonight, and for having the opportunity to share with you something that I believe is something that is not very well managed recently in our construction industry. I think Dr. Jamanta Pereira did already an initial part of the presentation that is a fantastic identification of the risks. What I'm going to share today is giving a tool for professional students and academics in general that follow a strong process of managing project risk. If you have the first part as identifying properly project risks and you follow a strong structure, you will be able to address the problem in a most efficient way. We are in the middle of crisis. We recently just were very well explained the consequences of the current crisis in Sri Lanka. But on my more than 25 years of experience in the construction and more recently in teaching, we have always crisis in construction. Then it can be different consequences, can be different reasons, can be different causes, but the most important thing is we need to be strong and we need to be prepared for whatever it comes. We have a scenario of the director of the Council of Tall Buildings that make us, even more drastic consequences that can, probably to the future. What I hope to tonight and have to give you this presentation and some of the tools is give you confidence of if you manage properly with a strong system, you feel more comfortable whatever waves will come. And in construction, we have something that will always make our hope open. Regardless everything is going to be destructed or whatever, unfortunately, we need to be rebuilt. Then construction will be always need to be active. Then sometimes you need to be resilient, and congratulations to Sri Lanka and have some, the last 2 days and this amazing business with amazing leaders on how Sri Lanka can, be resilient, doing amazing projects in this so difficult environment. You are really the leaders of resilience in this moment. Then you are probably the ones that can give some lectures and some sharing of your knowledge with the world. Because what I saw today and yesterday is just amazing. I just want to give you congratulations. I would try to be succinct, just small things. Why I'm in engineering, engineering for me is to transform the soil in something that can be used for everyone. It's creating a better world for human beings. And that Van Gogh elevator bridge for me was an inspiration since the beginning. We have the soil, we transform the soil materials, and we make them use for all. And now even this kind of more significant when we are talking about sustainability and how this can have another dimension. Just to give you a small understanding on myself, I wanted always to be connected theoretical knowledge with practical knowledge. Having those two things together is essential. As much as we know that we don't know, and be always alert. We know that the little we know, and how it's important always to trying to link the knowledge, the practical part with what needs to be done. Relative to the Council of Tall Buildings, just two publications after I moved to the academia. And we're trying to share knowledge on how best construction management practice really can change, can help to companies to be more profitable, can help sustainability, can help reducing now net carbon emissions. And those two cases was one, clearly our construction management sequence can really improve the productivity in tall buildings. That was a case in Melbourne. And the other one is in how the plumbing service can really make a contribution to reduce waste. And on the topic of today, I just read the book that we recently published on managing project risks. I think this book was the idea of we published this book was mainly give a good tool for everyone, mainly professionals in the construction industry, but projects in general and students, for give them the best approach if they want to develop this risk management system. Is our passion, is what we really want. We focus on construction is risks, is managing risks mainly. And if you address that problem properly, you really feel more prepared and help your clients, your stakeholders, and to be more effective. I ask you to, if you want to have a look to the book, start on chapter 18, that is strategic risk management. That chapter will help you to understand what is the best system for you. If the dimension of the company is essential, then if you are a small company, don't try to invest in a big system that is too expensive, too complicated. If you are a small company, you need to have a system that is indicated for you. Sometimes it's Excel is enough. Obviously, if you have a $2, $3, $4 billion dollars project, you need to have more sophisticated, but also you have more resources to apply. In the meantime, it's when you're trying to, one of the chapters is quite current because it's political risks. We all need to live with politics. We cannot avoid that. And sometimes we have lucky, other times we have not as lucky. And sometimes we have, it's difficult to be a politic also nowadays, and we also need to give them some kind of benefit of doubt for that. But I think one part of, if you read that chapter, is trying to understand how politics can make an influence on some of the activities that you have to do, and how effectively you can try to manage that. And one of the main things to managing things that we just listened before is having a good communication system inside of your company. But communication is also, you need to know what's happening in the world, in your country, and having internal in your company, a press, a media department is essential. You need to have daily, the directors of each company need to have someone that collect all the news that happen around the world and give you in your desk every day. You need to have this feeling on what's happening. Try to see if something, usually things doesn't happen, in the way, immediately. Some have more consequences that you think, but having this is one of the best ways. Then all directors of companies needs to have that as a base for their knowledge. Is having someone that collect all the information related with the business and put that in front of the table, helping their coordination. We don't know exactly how the politics, can react, and some of the reactions really make everyone, we don't know what are the reasons behind some of the decisions. We believe that they want to do the best. Unfortunately, we are the consequences of the good decisions and the bad decisions, but we can always try to manage that as anyway, we can't talk without the slides. Is what I want to share with you is how is the cycle of risk management, how is the importance of starting the context. And what Dr. Jamaite Pereira just explained is exactly identify the context. Any risk management system doesn't work if the context is not well identified. Because you can have the most sophisticated system, but you put rubbish in, you receive rubbish out. Then having an understanding on what is exactly the context of your company, of the project that you are involved, is essential for starting understanding the problem. And in the risk, I wanted to share with you the new standards, and I highly recommend you to have a look or download or the Australian Standard for Risk Management guidelines that really give you some kind of structure of thinking for you to address all the risks that you can have in each project. And remember that each project is different. The project that you are doing today, obviously, as you know, clearly in the current situation in Sri Lanka, was completely different if you do the risk management in 2018, where you have no idea about this complexity. Then remember that each time you look and start managing your risks, you need to look at scan the context where you are starting doing your project. How is your organization? You saw today, one of the issues is exactly the lack of resources that the company has. Then, first thing you need to understand and scan your company on your risk. How the company is prepared, is strong to react to the risks. You want to start a new project. Do you have enough finance capacity to go to that project? Do you have enough the people prepared to have? Do you have no knowledge about that? Do you know the market where you are going to do the project? Is your company strong enough to do the project? Then remember, it's like, when you take the airplane and they ask you, please, if there's an accident or some problem, just put your oxygen mask in front of you before you try to help others. In risk management is the same. You need to understand your own risks before you're trying to manage the risks of the project or the projects that you are involved with. And it is not enough. You can identify your risk, but you need also to put an effort to try how you are going to manage those risks. If that is not possible, you have a clarification about what is your risks. but you really need to put some effort on how is your organization, how is the investment that you want to do in the system to really manage those risks. Initially, I just give some examples on how you, for example, what is for you a catastrophic situation, for example, what is a very bad consequences for you? You can think that as an individual. Probably if you lose $5,000, okay, it's bad, but you know, you can survive. But if you lose $500,000, probably is very catastrophic and destructive. But you see, even those consequences are different between organizations and between each of us. Then it's important that at the beginning, in this context, you identify exactly what is something that can be catastrophic for you. It's essential that you define the rules at the beginning. What is something that happened very likely, or is very, okay, before the pandemic, probably you put that, oh, a pandemic with virus probably is very unlikely. Now, probably not as unlikely as was before but what means something that is very likely to happen? You base only in your experience. Oh, you know, I lost money in the last 10 projects, I lost, you know, 5%, then I have X probability that happen in next project. How those probabilities happen? This is identified as the criteria, you know, your consequences and likelihood. And this is in a map, in a matrix that we call it the risk appetite of each organization. Then you need to know yourself very well, trying to map your scenarios before you start involving in this adventure that is your risk management system. After you identify this clear context, then you go and try to identify the risks. What can be wrong? And according with the standards and in very clear, and this I suggest you, and I base all my advice on you to link to the standards. Why? Because that helps communication. If you link to the standards, and if you are doing, you know, dealing with different projects inside of Sri Lanka or internationally, if everyone are looking at the same structure, you improve communication. Then when you are changing risks with other partners internationally, if you follow your structure of risk management based on the standards, everyone understands and you can clearly manage those risks in the group properly. Then following the standards is something essential, but you have some rules that we need to clarify. For example, what is a risk? If I ask you what is a risk, probably each of you have a different perspective of or a different definition, and probably none of them can be wrong. But we need to clarify, and for all of us, what means risks. And a risk is just something that can have an effect on the effect on uncertainty in your objectives. And that means that you need to clarify your objectives. What are your objectives? Individually, as an organization, as a project. If you don't know your objectives clearly, you can manage your risks properly, and you can follow the risk management system according to the standard. We saw now some objectives that the organization has. You know, they are you know, lacking of qualified personnel because they are increased immigration, or they are now with lack of materials. They have different objectives, and what can happen that is have an uncertainty of our objective. Oh, thank you very much. Then we can just quickly go to some of those. That is the cycle. I will share the slides will be available. Then you can have a look. On the last 7 minutes, I will try to go quickly things that I then remember this, the risk management guidelines now. And the risk management now, it changed just for a process to look at your organization and think the risk management process should enhance value, not just safety and security, but should improve the shareholders' return, customer satisfaction, and should support your decision. The directors of the company needs to have a support of the system to clearly help them to take the decisions. And what can we, do you think only the directors need to have access to the risk management? Need to have, no, everyone on the organization, as soon as they have a responsibility in name of the organization, they are taking the risks of the organization as well. Then everyone needs to, inside of the organization, understand the risks, understand how they are managing the risk. We saw in an example just in the presentations in the conference before that the directors needed to understand that they need to make some sacrifices for the company to work. And everyone needs to understand that risks, how the risks are managed by the organization, and the importance of everyone to contribute to get through those risks. What they focus is attention to the directors is on board. This is the board of directors. The new standard make focus on what is the right risk appetite of the organization, what are the objectives, making policies clear for everyone to understand. And I went already on that, trying to identify clearly the context and scan the organization before you start doing something. This is a process, just have that in your context, then we have a risk assessment and we have the treatment process. Just think on that, this is just as simple as that. However, the methodology is a little more complex. In the last 5 minutes, external context, then the standard is clear for you to try to see how can things impact outside of my organization, and trying to, we have this politics reaction, we have, the climate change, we have the rules, we have some kind of conflicts, try to see what can impact. And remember, each project, if you have the same project, then you change location, you have different risks. Then you need to start again. Obviously, you need to have a good knowledge management system that you can learn from past experience, but you need to reassess. Internal context, how that happened, as we talked today about resources, is the quality, have you enough capacity, financial capacity to do the things? How scan your organization, do your homework before you start doing things. Objectives. Is labor the problem? Is we need to make profit? Is time? Is quality? Is relations with your clients? Is health and safety? We need to be the winners, the best. We need to innovate. We need to be environment friendly. We need to be international. Some of those things that we are discussing today is covering in those perspectives. Internationally can be an option now in crisis. Diversify. It's another option. And remember, each stakeholder have their own. If we meet 3 of us or 4 of us, each of us have a different risk profile. Then remember, when we are thinking on risks, you need to look at your risks, but each of the stakeholders involved in the project have their own risks. Sometimes they are conflicting. The risk of making money for the contractor can be probably something negative for the client because he wants to keep the money. Then remember that this is the case on our MST building and the matrix that I just explained to you, what that means severity for you, what means some risk to be read. After you identify that, let's go to the identification. Causes, events that have an impact on your risk. You have different tools. I made available that for you. Think about different tools and techniques to identify risks. We just put that and just have a look on the book on that chapter for you to know that it's lots of different techniques to identify risks. You can use, some of them are specific for safety, others for, like chemical areas, just for you to have an understanding on what can be available. But the main thing is all of them have brainstorming workshops. It's the best way to identify risks, is put people together and trying to understand each of those involved in each part, what are really the risks. And sometimes, in big projects, you have hundreds of hours of these workshops, but it's essential that you sit with the team. Sometimes you go to the quality team, or the times you go to the procurement or commercial team or finance team, and you bring as much people as you want and try to identify clearly the risk. This is essential for the success of your project. Remember, each team have different risks, even if it's for similar projects. As soon as you have that identified, then first identify the risk, then you rank, make an evaluation. I just like this image because this probably is a female maize that wants to feed their kids, and just think of, oh, what I'm going to do. Do I go and try my chance? Do I have a stick? Do I have someone to, pick the cheese for me and I can subcontract? Or, oh, probably too risky, I don't know, I'm going to the country and try to find another place, other thing to eat and to feed my kid. Then how that works in that evaluation phase is essential. Insolvency, project unfinished, we have now covered this. Is the procurement process, was the procurement process correct? Do I took too much risks in the procurement phase? I thought that at the beginning I was enthusiastic with my client, I can include everything. Do I have to make an assessment properly? In Australia now we have several cases of bank insolvencies because the contractors took on their too many risks that were not supposed to be them. They should know and build properly. They shouldn't take risks of business or design or the kind of thing. Then it's a quite an interesting conversation that happened. But what's happening, the clients think at the beginning is happy, he's open a bottle of champagne, he share all the risk or transfer all the risks to the contractor, and at the end he has a project unfinished. I don't know if you did well opening this bottle of champagne at the beginning, and this model probably we cost to us later. Cash flow, how is your cash flow management? Cash flow is sorry. I'll just take 2 minutes, sorry. It's already timing. I want to keep time as promised. But cash flow, do I have enough contingency? I don't know if you're clear about contingency. The amount of money that I need to have in reserve if something goes wrong. I've a commitment with my client since the beginning that the payment date, this is essential. How is going to be the payment? How I'm going to commit with my subcontractor the payment date? Do I have these dates clearly? Do I have money in the bank to pay? It's not anymore. We don't have anymore. When I started, my company has 20% of margin of profit. It was fantastic. Now, after we had just 4 or 5, this suddenly was a big problem. We don't have any more cash. Then how we manage cash flow is essential. We can have profitable projects. ProBuild is a company, big company in Australia that just went bankrupt. And they're profitable projects, but because they haven't managed properly cash flow, also on the top of COVID and an increase of the times, they will bankrupt. Then having a contingency plan is essential. And now you can have tools to help you, quantitative tools and qualitative tools. Quantitative tools can be like Monte Carlo simulations in risk. Then, for example, you have 4 or 5 or 6. You see, oh, probably in soils. I don't know the soils. Let's put, 50K on the soils. I don't know if I'm going to have a problem here with the concrete. Oh, let's put here more 100,000 maximum. And then you can use these statistical tools and to help you to see, okay, the probability of all these happen at the same time is very low, probably. Then use these statistical tools to help you to, okay, let's make some simulation and see the chances of all the things happen at the same time, or just 20% of the things happen at the same time. And those tools really give to the board of directors and the decision a very clear understanding on what is the value of contingency we need to have to manage those cash flow during that process. And then you can see, okay, what I'm going to do, remember the mice, I'm going to retain, is the major raise, is a high level. How is your strategy on level of reaction? And then you put your risks there to visualize. This is a tool that I show you, is a commercial tool, but have lots of different options for you to support. It's an expensive one, then it's only for big projects, but you see, you have now available the tools to help you to manage risks properly. But before using this, use the system properly. And then you go to the treatment, what you are going to do. You're going to avoid, you're going to share, you're going to reduce. And when you're trying to link those with your risks, you have your actions. And then everyone knows if a risk is to avoid, you need to take immediate action when it happens. If the risk is to reduce, you have some other activities to do. Then having these visuals, having these dashboards help the management to take decisions. And this is took a little more 2 minutes, but this is a real example. And to manage in a risk register like this one, it can be very simple. Then if your organization is small, don't make that as a problem for you to do a risk management properly. You can do it with a simple way. And probably it's a new business for some of the companies that are here, helping the client de-risk. This is with the client you really help the client to help you, because you are helping the client to try to understand the risks, the main parts of risk of their project, and how you can really de-risk those projects and make something really, really beneficial for all. And I just give you some more data for you to see. Then, thank you very much. I think we keep more or less on time. Sorry for some issues at the beginning and during the IT, but my message, I think, it was this: is trying to understand those risk management exists. Risk management is essential for you to try to understand that. And if you have a strong risk management system, new waves can come. No, don't be afraid. You have already preparation, and take this big crisis as an opportunity. Always transform difficulties in your life, in your company, in your country as an opportunity. What can we learn from what happened to make us stronger for the future? Thank you very much. If you have some questions, thank you. Have some questions? After? Okay. Then we have the queue after. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Paolo, for that timely discussion on managing projects during economical crisis and for carrying on despite the technical errors. The second session on the agenda is the Global Trends Towards Net Zero Tall Buildings, conducted by Professor Priyan Mendes. Priyan Mendes is a professor of civil engineering at the University of Melbourne and a structural engineering consultant. He worked as a structural engineer at Cornell Wagner in Melbourne before joining the University of Melbourne in the 1990s. He has been an expert consultant for the design of tall buildings in Australia and overseas, including some of the tallest buildings in the world, and an active participant in CTBUH since the early 1990s. He is also an expert on fire design and protection and a key member of the CTBUH Fire and Facade Committee. He is presently leading many projects in that area. Professor Mendes has written more than 400 papers with close to 12,500 citations. In 2020 and 2021, he was included in the database of the top 2% of researchers worldwide, prepared by the authors from Stanford University. I now invite Professor Priyan to conduct the session.
Thank you very much. And again, as always, as I have said a couple of times already during this trip, it's really been, gives me a lot of motivation to be here, where I was born, and also went to university. So it's always, I'm looking forward to this visit in December. But I also made sure that I'm here at the difficult time as well, but this was the most difficult time when I visited in June. And again, I was expecting that, and also to be among my friends here, work colleagues, also So with coming back in coming back in December, I had in fact it is I could see a big difference as well. So I know it's not all over and everyone touched. Again, Architect Jayanta Pereira, our chief guest. Also, I had to acknowledge our guest of honor, Professor Disanaika, my good friend. I think the Architect Jayanta Pereira also mentioned this. And also Dr. Paolo, even with us during a short time, I had to acknowledge him all the way. It's a Christmas period, a festive season in Australia, to be with us rather than with his family. So we are all really as coming from Sri Lanka, I had to really acknowledge that. When I asked you whether you can come with me this time, and he really said, yes, I will do that. So thank you very much, just been supporting us like this. An amazing career he had, as you saw. I don't need to repeat in Europe and then now Australia as well. So anyway, coming back to that, rather than taking time, it's happening now. Things are happening, and as we discuss even today, sometime there's some silver lining now. It's not all over, and it's really there are some positive signs coming up. I was in Lotus Tower where myself and Mr. Mal Fernando was involved from the beginning, from the day one, and there's some Singapore investment coming there, bungee jumping coming, and there are other investors are now foreign investors are asking to really check whether they can be there. So everywhere those things are happening. There's some few other investments was mentioned, of course, about the port city with Saudi Arabia joining the China harbor. So like that, I think there are some investment will come. So it's really hope for the best, and the worst time could be over. But despite all that, we are all very positive. We all are here because we are very positive. Now, other side of the story is that we can't really avoid the net zero, the global trend towards net zero. And I know some of us who started the Green Building Council, famous Golface meeting in 2009. Here we have some founder members here. We know that at that time we were all very interested, but we didn't realize that in such a short time, 13 years is not a long time, that we will have so much interest now. And it's again that so it's developed a lot. The major difference I see now is that if I evaluate that in 2009 our thinking and 2022, is that the clients will be asking this question now. At that time, we had to go and say to the architects, engineers, the managers, we had to go and tell the clients, you must consider sustainability. There's only, I remember going and saying, no, only 5% increase you can do this to make a green building. But now it's totally other way around. The clients are asking everyone that how can you make this a green building? Because they know they can't rent a building if they don't make it work towards this net zero. Also, they can't sell the building. The values are going up. Banks are not lending any money, even for large, tall building projects now, unless they show the green credentials. Also, that's why we all are here talking about it. The engineers, architects, managers here, project managers, all that we had to be qualified and have knowledge on these theories now. What is net zero? What is the client? Are happening around the world now. In Australia, it's definitely happening. I know that. Large infrastructure projects, there's $200 billion of infrastructure projects are coming up in Australia within the next 5 years. Huge. And also buildings are there as well. All of that, I can confidentially say this, I think, but it's going live, so I can't say too much. But some of those numbers that they're asking, the clients are asking now, the reductions. So they specify a base case, and the base case, and you need to reduce the carbon emissions by a certain number. I would say 30%, let's say 30%. And we know when we started, some of us were starting sustainable materials research, so many years back, no one cared at that time. Because the virgin materials, raw materials were cheaper, and why we had to go and get some recycled materials when we can buy the new materials cheaper. This was long time back. Now it's totally other way around. You have to. I've been working in concrete for now 30 years or probably more than that. But it's really now this the coming that, let's reduce the cement. We were going and saying use a bit more cement, concrete is better. That's what we were saying at the beginning. Now we are saying you had to reduce. Clients are, again, the numbers that I'm allowed to say, these numbers are around 30% or minimum 30-35%. Cement has to be reduced. And again, that with the recent project to get why this is becoming so and so important is that because now there are like if you are shortlisted to really, I know very well, I'm not allowed to say this, a certain project I was asked to be involved, and I know Dr. Paolo knows about this. Both of us are involved in a large project with the tendering team. To get the edge for the bidding teams, they have to show the best credentials in the sustainability area. So it's becoming it's total turnaround now. Last 6 months has been even hotter than before. So in Sri Lankan context is quite important. All of us really understand the concepts, and to really get work in the future, like now we have other foreign projects coming. I'm pretty sure even Post City and other projects, they will have minimum requirements for sustainability. So it's totally, we are all happy some of us who started the Green Building Council in 2009, we're very happy now, this situation that we were prepared so many years back. We were one of the first Green Building Councils in the world, and it's the most active. I was talking to the chairman now, Professor Ranjit, saying, and we got the manager here as well, Upeksha. We were probably the Green Building Council of Sri Lanka, probably last year, I would say, with all these issues, I would say one of the most active councils in the world. That's because of the interest here, and we in Sri Lanka. So anyway, I haven't started my presentation. Sorry about that. But so these photos we have seen, and I like the same photos I used right now 15-20 years back. I can still say the climate change is real, and the ice is melting. You can go and visit Europe now. These are all happening. We don't need to go and show. Those days when we talk about green buildings, climate, changes, there was 50% didn't accept it. US itself 50%, other places as well. But now everyone believes, 100% believes. I think close to 100%. Unusual to have someone say, no, there's no climate change. And it is happening. This is totally happening now. Carbon dioxide levels, it's been measured. It's been proven scientifically. It's not really assumed values. When you measure, you can see the temperature rise. When this book was written by Mark Linus, saying 6 degrees, everyone is saying, this guy is something wrong with this guy. The 6 degrees is, how come 6 degrees? Why? He was saying 6 degrees means humans won't exist. Now we are saying, finally, 2050, we are trying to restrict 1.5 degrees, the temperature rise. So 6 degrees, if we didn't do anything, that is, we are doing something now, getting to net zero carbon to really make it to zero, to restrict to 1.5 degrees. So 6 degrees would have happened if we didn't take any action. So now Mark Linus was very happy what he said so many years back. It's happening in Sri Lanka. Droughts, climate change is And then the extreme events, we can see that just because of climate change, it's happening, the droughts and then the floods in some parts of the world, landslips, very common now we see even in Sri Lanka as well. So this map, which I again showed in another CTBUH forum last year online, I was talking here, Sri Lanka, one of the forums, but I showed this map, but it's the carbon is even when I said this again, probably 1.5 years back, now it's even hotter now. With carbon is becoming really business now. Carbon accounting, carbon management. So carbon, again, people have started businesses just on carbon. And I can talk for hours and hours of that. I'm conscious about the time. I'll limit this talk to a certain level, but it's happening everywhere. The emissions trading schemes, the carbon prices are going up. Europe always led the world in this area. Dr. Paolo, some of your companies, you have experience and were well ahead of the game. But now that we are all catching up. But same time, I think the carbon prices are catching up. Australia, I know, going up very quickly. Now, I'll give some reasons for that later on. So we all know some of these things are really, we all know what happened in really the Glasgow meeting to really, then we said, we didn't have any plan. Then we said, let's limit to 1.5%. Then we said, we'll go and like by 2050, make it the net carbon zero, all that came up, quantified in that particular meeting. That is the turning point. Before also we had all that. We knew we had to do it. But that's where when we started putting numbers, then only everyone get interested. So there's a target. We had to set a target. Before we were saying, let's make it green buildings, all sorts of things. But now that there's a target. So this really in Australian context, why we are all in the construction industry. So it's really, so the C&D waste, even if you take off, we have a big problem in Australia. So with the C&D waste, it's been some of those numbers I'm showing, not to worry too much about the numbers, whatever show, it is extremely important to have the C&D waste. And then we had a climate change bill which changed everything with the new government coming in, the government coming into power. Even then, Australia was against some of those targets before, but now with the new government, really they put these targets, 43% by 2030, reduce emissions. We are still about 18%. Now it's only, we saw how quickly this year went. So these are impossible targets as far as I'm concerned. So same time, and then we said 2050 net zero. Now, impossible target. That's why everyone gathering here, AEC industry, we say the construction industry generally, architects, engineering and construction, we will have the opportunity. We are the worst, really, same time we are the ones who are, I don't want to use the word polluters, but again, I have this saying, it's again, we are the solution as well. We provide the solution that will create opportunities, that will create new innovations, opportunities for our industry. So our value of everyone around this here will go up because of this thing. So it is really these are just numbers, casual numbers. I think I put long time back, well, WGPC came up with these numbers, but it's really, I'm sure it'll get modified, not to worry about 32 or whether it's 33, but so it's the world's resources, a huge amount of energy consumption, also the waste materials going to landfill. Australia completely stopped having new landfills. So that has given so many opportunities for us to work on the recovered resources. We don't even use the word waste. Now we use the word recovered resources. Also, waste is becoming this saying of waste is becoming gold now. One day it'll be worth a lot because the people who are really working on waste now, really waste feedstock and all that will become very rich. So it's going to happen. So we have the US SDG goals on again, with the energy side, this one, but there are other goals also with but high-rise buildings, are a key. We are really, again, if you think of buildings, like we are the giants who are working on tall buildings, and we can make a difference to the world. So the linear versus, I don't want to spend a lot of time on linear versus circular economy. We have heard these things, the general statements. We are linear, linear. We were just working on one way. This one, when I said this story, I was talking after dinner conference speaker for a circular economy conference a few months back in Australia, and I was just I have this one. I thought everyone laughed. I thought no one will laugh, but I was saying the circular economy. So how I defined the circular economy to a layman, someone who is not easiest way rather than mentioning no circle or that. I said we are used to going very straight. Now we had to go round and round the circles to do something. So it's anyway. So that's how the circular economy can be defined. But so in terms of it's not that actually. It's the totally other way. It's a really opportunity to really work on the materials. We didn't think about what's going to happen. We didn't think about what is the end of life. When we had a project, we didn't think about the end of life. We just went and reduced we just thought about the construction stage. We just talked about some materials, and then we left it. So end of life, we didn't think about. End of life could come in 1.5 months. We saw the end of life doesn't mean 50 years or 60, 100 years. End of life could be like how many weeks is the Qatar Stadium? One of the stadiums are dismantled in 2-3, no, we know 1.5 months or more than that after starts, but there's a few months it was dismantled. So it can come anytime. Also, the end of life can come when I was presenting something on, we have a project on solar panel recycling. And it's really, when we had that launch, someone said, that day, when the solar panel recycling, that project, the launch was there, someone said, no, you can have, with the wind coming in, it can really destroy the solar panels. Again, in that sort of extreme wind situation, in few months, sort of in few hours. So end of life could come very quickly. So people think end of life is, we can end of life. I don't know when my EOL is. Some people ask, what is your end of life? We don't know. That's okay. That's a joke. Sorry. So there are examples of circular economy. They eliminate the waste generation and pollution. So it's the principles of circular economy. These are theoretical terms. I don't want to I just put down some of these principles that we have learned. The decarbonization keywords now, and again that the design for reuse. These are new terms. I don't know whether I introduced that. I just use it. I'm sure I've seen that a few others using it now. Design for reuse. The material side I'm talking about, and the regeneration. I think the natural systems, eliminate the use of natural resources. And this diagram I will not explain. That's in the World Green Building Council website. They have lots of resources already. And as I said, the Sri Lanka Council is one of the most active, following some of those principles to really even go some steps further, I will mention. But these are all how to define that. I will not spend time. I will really share these slides, because the definitions we have to get right. What is this net zero carbon, the buildings? What are they, what do you mean by them? And the definitions of need to really understand clearly, because people interchange some of that. This is from Advance in Net Zero, the program. I think Professor Ranjit, you would have been there. I was also in one of the cities conferences when WGBC launched the Advance in Net Zero, the concepts, so they got a lot of resources. They spend a lot of time. So these definitions are quite important. So people still don't understand what is net zero, what is meant by the net zero. So what is a net zero energy building? And it is really all the 100% of the energy has to be done using on-site renewable energy. There are building service engineers in this audience. I know senior people as well to others. So we know it's impossible to get net zero energy buildings. We can use today I don't have time to talk about all the solutions, but we can use the also energy solar panels to, we can use I know especially solar panels these days, but then there are other resources. We try to put wind turbines to some buildings. It's very hard to get the wind turbines on top of the buildings to work. Then we tried geothermal energies. We did all that before, but very hard to get that. I will not have time to go through everything, so I'll say this. Also, we are also doing work on the hydrogens. Hydrogen is becoming a major source, but again, I may not have time to talk about hydrogen. Be careful, because we all talk about green hydrogen now. The green hydrogen means that you need the other renewable resources to generate the hydrogen. So hydrogen is just a carrier. People think hydrogen means the renewable energy source. It is not a renewable energy source. It is just a carrier. So we need to remember all that. So we can't count everything like that. So net zero operational carbon is a bit more, especially not tall buildings context I'm talking about also, but it is a bit more achievable. And that is if you get the renewable energy from other sources, where you get like net zero operational carbon means from outside, even if they're generated from renewable sources, then that can be counted towards net zero operational carbon. That's what we should try first, rather than impossible to get net zero energy building straight away. Then the much more broader one is a net zero whole life carbon, which is really using some other embodied carbon as well to combine those two. So I think just read those definitions. If you're interested, a bit more details in the World Green Building Council websites and other sources. Also, there should be some scientific basis of all that. You can't just go and define. So this is downloadable from the web with again that according to this document says any company, the carbon footprint should be reduced by 90% and the remaining offset by carbon removal projects to classify as net zero. Net zero companies will have more value in the future. If you float the company in the share market, then say we are a net zero, it'll have a value. So what you spend is nothing on working on these things. So I will not read anything from this. This world WGBC has some whole life carbon vision, which you can go to the website and read. And this is probably a bit ambitious, but reduce the all operational carbon emissions by 2030, reduce embodied carbon emissions by 2030. Maybe we worked hard, but and try to achieve that. But it's the way the time is going. I'm not sure. But anyway, the positive thing, whether we achieve or not, is that it's really we are working towards that goal. I showed this so many years back. So I will this energy. So there are, what can you do? We can have energy efficient lighting. We know all that now. Nothing new. Solar panels, we know. Green roofs, we know. The water efficient, it was new at that time, but water efficient, we know. Acoustic and thermal comfort, we know. We know the day lighting has to be there. All that low emitting materials, alternate transportation methods have to be there. Just go for electrical vehicles. I saw even in Colombo now, there are displaying new types of scooters and all the cars. Europe is gone. All the trucks are all hydrogen. The cars are mostly electric. Now the new models are all electric. So Australia has been slow, but Sri Lanka also. We know that because of the crisis, these are positives from the crisis. There are a lot more electric cars have come now, obviously here in Sri Lanka as well. Recycling, when we talk about that at that time, not much interest, but we know it's growing. Anyway, some of the solutions I'll talk very quickly. We won't take all the time. These are topics I can talk for hours and hours. But there will be a paper presented in the Candy Conference in the CTBUH session. In thanks to Professor Disanaga, we still run the Candy Conference. There's a paper in the CTBUH session. I think on the Saturday morning, Mr. Hardy is the organizer. So there's a paper from there. Some of our friends from Melbourne. They are saying that they've done a quick study. What they're saying is there's no work done in Sri Lanka on quantifying. Quantification is a key. Net zero energy and the solar panels, they have compared just very crude study on solar panels itself. What they're saying is only 33% of the emissions can be, they have done some few buildings in Sri Lanka and said that in some places and said 3% is only 3% you can have. But then, so you have to use this facade integrated transparent PVs now. You can't have, you just have to have you can't just have roof panels, and especially for tall buildings, your roof area is very small. So you had to have the facade integrated transparent PV. I had a PhD student, not myself, Professor Lu, who is expert in solar panels, and myself had a student a long time back, but at that time the interest was not that great, but with these panels, but it's again the aesthetics, natural lighting, thermal insulation, avoid cost structure support system and site development. So these are key solutions. I got 3 students who are joining me here very soon in the best students coming from the University of Moroto, all you're from Moroto, right? But some of you would be working on these issues, but the facade integrated transparent PVs, the net zero operational carbon, which is really the, again, this is again, I'm not going to read about the solutions. I still see this as we have to provide solutions now. We know the basics, we know what we had to do something, but what are the solutions? And some of these solutions being implemented in this building in Manila, designed by SOM actually, not from a Malaysian company, but certain things we know, triple and double glazing, whether thermal zoning, there you can read from there. HVAC system, ER of 15, Rasika is their expert. What is the ER here? One of the systems, 8.59, somewhere there. I think to get the energy efficiency rating for HVAC is to get to 15 is not easy. Right? So maybe you can tell me the number here, but I don't think 15 is not easy, right? So yeah, so anyway, these are things that to get to the net zero carbon or whatever, net zero, the operational carbon is not possible to really, these are not easy. So some of that, its solutions they have provided, maybe we need to, so they have done probably spend money, but it's really worthwhile get into these high values. So to get the net zero carbons, my message is not easy, especially for tall buildings. You need to go above all that, the present numbers, the clients will approve it now, some extra cost. So that way, I think we have a certain amount of really support from the clients themselves. It's work done by BSEC team on the energy performance, the optimization, one of the buildings. I think that's so. I think this quantification from modeling solutions should be based on the modeling. So I think modeling will become important. I know Green Building Council also running courses on this now here, the Sri Lanka, some of these courses. So some of the solutions had to come from the quantification. That is where the solutions are. Let's go through very quickly. Carbon sequestration. You need to really, to get to the net zero, you need to really absorb the carbon. I have a student looking at using carbon dioxide for curing concrete. So we can't just, so there's also, again, I don't think I can, I'm happy to share that, but you can, what we are looking at is also the cement production. You have the main the main problem is that I don't think I can talk all that. I will take ages. But the main problem, as you know, I'm sure everyone, whether you know, but when I asked some of the another audience in Australia, they said, I thought everyone know. But so why concrete is the cement is the most polluting member? Maybe I'll give the answer and ask him. But that is because of the lime, the calcium carbonates. We take the calcium carbonates, we convert them to lime when we manufacture cement. So that CO2 is emitted at that time, the conversion of limestone to lime. So that CO2, so when cement companies produce CO2, then you take the CO2 and we are trying to use it for curing the concrete. Because if you look at the deeper concrete material, conversion into that absorbing carbon dioxide, as long as we don't allow it to really react with water and convert it to H2CO3. I think now I'm carried away with my concrete technology, but so let's leave it there. But the hydrogen is quite important. I'll just skip very quickly. That's my visit there in LA. I was just going to see some of the hydrogen plants in LA. It's just before COVID, so it's good to see. So that's now, at that time also they were complaining not enough, like no interest, the costs are high and people won't buy hydrogen any day. See what has happened in 2-3 years. Now everyone wants to invest in hydrogen. And so it's really again, one of the chemical engineering students from Moroto Uni, one of the lecturers have joined doing hydrogen. I'm just a co-supervisor, not the principal of him, but we are doing some work on that. Now, these are my area where I don't need to go through this. I've given talks on module and prefabricated. So rapid construction has to be done, because what we have done now is to really get the embodied energy of the materials, operational energy. Then we are talking about the construction side as well. We have ignored that. So during construction, we need to really rapid construction by saving time by how many months? 6 months, 1 year saving will really reduce that carbon footprint of the construction methods. We got a project manager who completed a very important project. I think I'm allowed to say that because I worked with Shomal to complete the Tyson project. It's a very important project. Thank you for being here. And some of you, it's a very nice project, which really, as we see. But so I know you've completed that in how many months is that? It's very quick construction, even despite the COVID. But the rapid construction methods are again, it's coming very important. So I will not talk too much now. Modular. Now you have listened to me talking probably 10 years back on these modulars and precast. Now it's becoming more popular. But so it's really bring to the side, doing the factory, less waste, less time. You can do the foundations, you can do the full structure in the factory, brought into the site. So now that there's a driver incentive, because we can put numbers, saving of 10 months. Before, it was only the cost saving we are talking about. But now we have an additional factor which will drive our industry, the carbon factor. So we can link to the carbon now. That really will be even for our work. So that's why my message clear to our industry. It is an opportunity to really this area. So rapid construction techniques, you can do high rise. That's the one in Melbourne, which some involvement in that. The full modular, I think that's the real high rise in the world, modular. So I will not read anything, but these buildings can be used as material banks. Once the end of life, they can be really converted into real materials. Again, reuse the materials. So the advantage of prefab is it's a full circle economy. Dr. Paul Lorenz may talk for the Institute of Civil Engineers. Now, at that time, I was talking about how a modular could be circle economy. That's in the IC UK website, that talk. But on that, but the circle economy is one of the best examples. That is you do that and then dismantle and reuse it. So I know I'll be very quick and running out of time. So this is something that now like now I also thought I'm not probably the first person to think about construction 5.0, but it's so it's a quicker, cheaper, environment friendly, sustainable, high quality construction, construction 5.0. I had this slide now, again, 5 years now, but it's very hot now. Again, I see the word construction 5.0. Not only me, I'm sure few others use this word construction 5.0. You will see more and more the net zero carbon management word. I'm coming back to my topic, but carbon management will become a key driver for construction, whatever the new modern construction. So we can't forget. This is something I suggested in a 1 kilometer tower, Dubai at that time concept stage, to have slots in the structure. Now that didn't get built up. The GFC came, but one day hopefully. But it's those slots we calculate to reduce the reduce efficiency of sorry, not reduce the reduce the wind loads and the efficiency. So we have to really use the design side as well. It's just a total game now with this the carbon management. So by doing that, you reduce the materials, you reduce the construction times, you make it efficient, reduce the foundation materials. So that all can be quantified back to the carbon number. That will be the key in the future. So this one is really, I hope, I know that get built. I did lots of my team, one of my PhD students at that time, CFD, did a lot of CFD to come up with this, working with this, in this case, WSP at that time, and with Mr. Anil Hira, who was here. He's the one who brought me to this project. Very quickly, recycled materials, you have heard me talk about. I'll skip that. This is something, a unique one, which we did for Mr. Shomar gave me permission to use. I call it a fruit salads. I think it's probably one of the first in the world to use in the slab, all materials, including, I'm sure no one will get offended here, we use even hair from to as the waste material. I haven't seen that in others using also. It's opportunity. I don't get this opportunity in other parts of the world to use some of these trying out. Now here we could just try out all sort of materials. And I know bottom mash was used for the whole staircase so I use that. So bump up the strength going down. I use some of the graphene oxide also for the column. I work closely with CGT here with Mr. Shara's team with the graphene, the graphic grid, the name I gave as well for the graphene concrete. So it's another day I'll talk about graphene concrete. But with the recycled waste materials are a key. We are using other projects. We got all sort of projects on glass, paper, textiles, tires. Not only us, many are doing it. But okay, only problem is people are doing research, but very hard to get into the practice. That is one of the first we have done for a big project, the Metro Tunnel project. There we have put, my team was working on it. We put glass concrete. It's only for a temporary slab. We don't know. We have to have the scientific evidence to put that into to larger projects. The load-bearing members. This was only a temporary slabs, so we were allowed to do that and doing some work I was doing. But ASR in glass and other things. So I think it had to be done. But this came again. I think I'm taking too long. I think I better stop. I can start talking, maybe 2 minutes. But this one, the main problem was not we know how to use glass in concrete, but the main problem was the pumping. The glass gets stuck in the pumps. So these are the things that we don't understand. In the lab, we can go and put anything these days and do that. When it comes to practice, these practical problems. So working with Holcim, we really, actually, we are the ones who gave the solutions to Holcim to really one of the first to use in a large project, the glass. So you'll see more and more, but there are other issues to get for load-bearing members. I'll talk on another day. This is another one which we had working with the largest plastic recycler in Australia to really use some of those construction solutions. Last 2-3 slides, but I was, again, when you did the analysis, quantification is a key. I will not go through this, which I presented, 10 years back, this work. So it's not recent. We took a high-rise building and we did a quantification of the carbons at that time. but I will not go through, but still relevant now, even more and more relevant now. Same methods has not changed. It's one of the buildings I got involved at that time. But I want to just finish off these numbers. See the numbers, they are quite high. So this is where we will end up in the next few years. We will see quantification is a key, accurate carbon calculations, carbon management, and not just the embodied energy materials. Then also the operation energy is a key. We know the techniques, they are equals to, now we use what's called transits for this work, higher level one. Then we have we have the equivalent carbons, and then this never happened. In the future, 3 or 4 suggesting concepts for tall buildings. One who is getting not just the cost, but the lowest carbon number will get the job. We know it's going to happen. So that didn't happen a few years back. Now I can see that happening in like in new tall buildings. So world has changed so much. Those who were environmentally friendly now talk about those things. Now there are many other incentives. So our industry, again, the word is take this as an opportunity. I think I'll stop there. Keep going.
Thank you, Professor Priyan, for that great presentation on net zero tall buildings. The next and final session on the agenda is the launching of the tall building guideline, which will be done by the president of the CTBUH Sri Lankan chapter, Mr. Shiromal Fernando. Shiromal Fernando, leading structural engineer in Sri Lanka, best known for his engineering work on many high-rise buildings in the country, including the 350-meter tall Lotus Tower, Colombo. He holds the degrees Bachelor's in Engineering, in Civil Engineering, and Master's in Philosophy degree from the University of Murtua, Sri Lanka, and is also a Chartered Engineer of the Institution of Engineers, Sri Lanka. As the Managing Director, Shiromal Fernando currently leads Civil and Structural Engineering Consultants Private Limited. Shiromal Fernando is the current Chairman of CTBUH Sri Lanka and the Vice President of the Green Building Council Sri Lanka since 2020. I now invite you for the book launch.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Architect Jayanta Pereira, our chief guest, and Professor Disanayaka, our guest of honor, Dr. Paulus, Professor Priyan, and members of the CTBUH, and invited guests, and my dear colleagues. So I'm proud to say that we have formulated tall building guideline for the Sri Lankan designers. So it is an effort of many individuals, including pioneering professor in tall buildings, Professor Priyan Mendis, who I learned tall building design, and I have been involved in many tall buildings in the last couple of years. Last 10 years, we have been doing a lot of tall buildings, and two engineers, Shilpa Tilakaratne and Kiribaran Baraji, has been our co-authors who were responsible for the earthquake and wind chapters, and they are few individuals who has read and commented and improved this book, who has been working with me on many tall buildings. That is Engineer Bhatia Waduge, Engineer Dilina Hettiarachchi, Engineer Udayanga Alvis, Susanka Mataguira, and Engineer Dilan Karapitia is the one who finally finished the job. Thank you, Dilan, for getting things done. So these are the projects that we have been involved: Lotus Tower, Capital Twin Peaks, Cinnamon Life, the one, Marina Square, Colombo City Center, Hyatt, 96 Legend Square, Avic Astoria, I mentioned, so many projects. So in your left, it was 10 years back. In your right, it is 10 years after, that is 2020s. Most of the towers are designed by our team. So we have a lot of experience, and we thought it's time for us to give back to the society. When we are designing these buildings with European contractors, Chinese contractors, Indian consultants and contractors, we found we didn't have any project, any document to follow. So mainly we were following the British standard. That is good for normal buildings. For tall buildings, it is not focused for tall buildings. Then we were guided by Professor Mendes to follow the Australian standards, because Australia, with respect to wind and earthquake, are similar in nature. And so another thing is, some of the clients pushed us to follow the Indian standards. Some of the clients pushed us to follow the Chinese standards. But since we didn't have a proper standards, so finally we have come up with standards that is acceptable to most of the designers. That is based on the European standards, because the SLS is advocating European standards. So it is based on the European standards, but European standards you cannot directly apply to Sri Lanka. So you have to modify some of the performance criteria. So basically this document will help us for the designers to, when the post-city development comes, as a guide to follow. What are the loads that we need to do? What are the combinations that we have to use, etc., etc. So we with respect to basis of design, we have looked at single tower, multi-purpose towers, and then and also definition between the buildings and the towers. Also, and different structural systems. You can see frame structures, shear wall structures, shear wall and frame systems, and also some of the bundle systems that we have introduced. Outriggers, you can see, you go to the one tower, you can see the outriggers that we have used. So we have, so all the experience that we got during the process, we have put that into the document. So with respect to loading, we have looked at the possible loading scenarios, mainly following the Euro codes. With respect to wind, you know, we have wind data by doing so many buildings using with RWDI, CPP, and many other European wind tunnel agencies. We have developed the wind climate data, and so that has been done. So basically, the tall building and the short building, the difference is wind excitation is very important. So basically, the wind maybe long wind will excite the the lateral movement. So because of that, you need to do wind tunnel studies, where initially maybe CFD studies, where you need to modify the topology, working with the architect to reduce the wind loads on the structure. It governs the major load. And what we don't understand is, and also we don't have laws in Sri Lanka, where when we build a building, the pedestrian level get affected because of the wind climate. So we need to do studies with using wind tunnel, or or CFD studies. So, and also the wind pressures at different levels are different. So you need to study that using CFD studies or wind tunnel studies. So this is a typical wind tunnel that we have used. Most of the designers doesn't have the opportunity to do that. And we have done all the type of wind tunnels studies, aeroelastic studies, then rigid model studies, and pressure data studies. So that all that has been included in the and with respect to earthquake, of course, Sri Lanka and Australia in the same Indo-Australian plate, and a lot of studies has been done by Professor Abekon and also Professor Disanayaka's team of University of Peradeniya. Now he's Dr. Dhananjaya has formulated wind earthquake response spectrum. So we have used all that to develop the design criteria for earthquakes in Sri Lanka, especially using Colombo. Colombo is the main CDB, so we will focus our guideline for Colombo. So more of the people think there will not be an earthquake, but in 1960, 1615, 1938, there had been earthquake very close to Colombo, and there have been many damages. So we need to focus on that, especially in the detailing. Detailing, of course, Society of Structural Engineers has a guideline. If you do the detailing according to that, there is a possibility of surviving that earthquake. So basically, we're promoting, while promoting that, but you have to properly calculate and see the risk and design. So these are the response spectrums that we are introducing, new response spectrums with respect to the 50-year return period, 500-year return period, and the 2,500 return period earthquakes. So here we are trying to give a criteria. We are in a low seismic region, where therefore in a frequent earthquake, that is 50 earthquake, our performance of the building should be not get affected. It should be immediate occupancy. With respect to the 500-year return period, with respect, should be maybe immediate occupancy. And then with respect to the 2,500-year earthquake, building should not collapse. So those are the criteria that we have targeted with respect to the performance design-based reduction. So with respect to the materials, we have introduced high-strength concrete, reinforced concrete, reinforced steel, composite, pre-stressed concrete. We have worked with all the materials with respect to tall buildings. So all this material information and the guidance is there. So thank you. So I would like to present this book to our guest, chief guest, and also the guest of honor. And I would like to, and also our keynote speaker. So please come to the stage, and I would like Professor Priyan also to come to the stage and Also the two co-authors, Mr. Kiribaran and Shilpa Tilagaratna, please come to the stage to do the honors. And all the invited participants will receive a free copy today. Otherwise, they have to buy the copies from.
As we come to the end of the conference, I would like to invite Engineer Bishar Hadi, the Secretary of CTBUH, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed a great privilege and honor for me to deliver this vote of thanks in front of this prestigious gathering. Every successful achievement has a lot of effort and hard work behind the stage. CTBUH Colombo Forum 2022 is no exception. It's a time to recognize and appreciate the contribution of these persons who are the backbone of the success of this milestone event. Today we had two distinguished international experts addressing us. We had wonderful presentations related to global trends in net zero tall buildings and managing projects in challenging economic environments. Dear Dr. Paulo, dear Professor Priyan Mendis, it's a great honor for CTBUH Sri Lanka to have international experts of your caliber addressing this gathering. Thank you very much again for your time, for kindly accepting our invitation and sharing your valuable knowledge, and also traveling all the way from Australia to attend this forum and also upcoming Candy conference, where also we have a CTBUH session. Next, I would like to thank our chief guest, Architect Jayanta Pereira, for kindly accepting our invitation and making a presentation here as a former president of Sri Lanka Institute of Architects. As you all know, CTBUH is not only engineers, it brings all the professionals related to tall buildings into a common platform. So it's very important we all the key professionals related to tall buildings come together. Thank you very much, sir, for your kind presence. And thank you very much, Professor Ranjit Disanayaka, our guest of honor. Despite tomorrow is being the Candy Conference opening, still he made the point to be here. Last time also he was there until the end of the event. Thank you very much, Professor. And here, since we have 3 chairpersons of Candy Conference, I would also like to invite all of you to attend Candy Conference, which is starting tomorrow, 4 o'clock onwards for 3 days. We also have 2 session chairs, Dr. Tushar and Dr. Laksiri Pradeep here. So we will also have a CTBUH session there on Saturday morning from 9 o'clock onwards. So all of you who can, I would like to invite on behalf of CTBUH. Also, I would like to extend my thanks to the event partners, Arcadium, Sripali Contractors, CSCC, distinguished invitees, and the respected participants of the forum. Without your valued presence, CTBUH Colombo Forum 2020 would not have been a fruitful and colorful event. Thank you very much again. Because of your presence, because of all these, despite all these changes, challenges, you made a point to attend this forum on a weekday evening. Thank you very much again. I should not forget to thank the wonderful organizing committee we had, led by Engineer Shiromal Fernando. Thank you very much. Our Vice Chairman, Architect Nirodha Gunadasa, our Treasurer, Mr. Ruan De Silva, and we had a young team led by Ronali, Chatumi, Aisha, Tusita, and many others who made this event a success. Thank you very much again, all of you. Yeah, I should thank the BMICH management and the support staff for providing this wonderful venue for us. Pardon me if I have missed anyone during my vote of thanks. And once again, for all of you for taking the time and being present here, thank you very much. And once again, I invite all of you to attend the upcoming conference. And also we will have the annual CTBUH Global Conference for the 2023 in Singapore. Those who can, again, I would like to extend the invitation on behalf of CTBUH. Thank you very much.
We would like to hand over the tokens of appreciation for the chief guest and guest speaker of the event. I now invite Mr. Ruan De Silva and Architect Nirodha onto the stage to hand over these tokens of appreciation to Dr. Paolo and Architect Jayanta Pereira. We shall now conclude the CTBUH Colombo Forum for 2022. I would like to thank you all for taking your time to participate to make this event a success. Thank you all and good night.